A shakeup on the offensive line at Monday's practice. It's Locked on LSU. Let's talk about it. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. LSU is back on the practice field on Monday, day 16 of fall camp. They were indoors, media only allowed to watch 15 minutes. So we saw individual and a scout period, both offense and defense. But even though we had limited availability and it was a lighter day, boy, the notebook is full, including a change on the first team offensive line, which is where I'm going to start in just a second. But just a few housekeeping notes. So remember, LSU had they were light on Friday because they had a full scale scrimmage in Tiger Stadium on Saturday. Sunday was a recovery day. This was the first day back out after the scrimmage. So scrimmage Saturday, recovery day Sunday, practice Monday. And so they were helmet shoulder pads. So helmet shoulder pads, girdles. They were not in full pads. And we got to see the first 15 minutes of the workout indoors. Not sure if afterwards they went outdoors or practiced the whole time inside. Again, we only got the first 15 minutes, and we did not have media availability from Brian Kelly afterwards. But the first thing that was most notable is when LSU went out there, as the media was let in, they were running their hurry-up offensive period. It's an offensive ready period where they go quickly, running a hurry-up, no huddle, first, second, third team, half the field, 50-yard, boom, boom, boom. It's just a tempo period to get the offense going. And the first thing you notice is Carius Curne, the 5-star freshman, was with the first team at right tackle in place of Weston Davis. So the rest of the offensive line was in place as what we've become to expect. Tyree Adams at left tackle, DJ Chester at left guard, Braylon Moore at center, Josh Thompson at right guard, but it was the freshman Carius Curne at right tackle. Now remember, Curne came to LSU as a 5-star, the number one interior offensive lineman in the country. But if you go back to spring ball, he's been working exclusively as the second team left tackle. There have been a lot of people who have asked, Matt, with the seeming competition at guard, why not play Curne at guard? Could he get on the field now? Maybe. But I'm going to go ahead and trust Brian Kelly, Brad Davis, Joe Sloan, Alex Atkins, that they know what they're doing here, and they've run Curne at tackle. And while he is a big man, Carius Curne, and I'm looking at the roster right now, they have him officially listed at 6'5", 320. I mean, he is a big old dude wearing that 57, but remember, he's also a guy that can do a standing backflip. So certainly athletic enough, they feel, to play out on the edge. Well, it is worth noting, after they ran that no huddle period, then they were going scout team. And Curne, again, was first offense against a scout defense, given a look of Clemson. And after a first couple of plays, Curne was replaced at right tackle by Weston Davis. I'll tell you, and I'll put this video on social media. I don't know that I would read really anything into this, but Curne was trying to execute a block. He kind of fell forward, kind of fell on his face, kind of fell forward. And after that play, they pulled him and put Weston Davis in. I'm not saying that it was because of that play. I'm not saying he didn't perform. Maybe that was already the plan to rotate them. But when the twos went out and ran their sequencing, it was Weston Davis with the twos when they were doing that hurry up period as well. So just something worth keeping an eye on as we move forward. I want to remind you of this, and this is one of the reasons that it's kind of impactful. Two things. Brian Kelly, remember, I asked Brian Kelly on Friday when we had that media availability with him, with all the rotation we've been seeing on the offensive line, particularly on defense, as you get closer to Clemson, at some point you cut down that rotation because you have to get your starters reps together. This is what Brian Kelly said Friday.
Well, I want to continue the competition. I think it brings out the best in everybody, and some of our areas of concern last year were that we didn't have any depth and we didn't have that competition and we couldn't keep the, a sharpness, if you will. And so we're going to continue to keep the reps in a manner that allows competition for all players.
Okay. You cannot accuse that man of being a liar. That was on Friday. He said, we're going to continue the competition, keep reps for all players, competition for all players. And here you are on Monday where you're less than 2 weeks from the opener against Clemson, and you're playing Carius Curne at right tackle for the first time. It's the first time we've seen it. So we get one more day of availability on Tuesday. Be interesting to see if Curne is still out there running with the ones, or if Davis is back there, if this is just cross training. We don't know. We have access again on Tuesday, and we do get to talk to Brian Kelly after practice on Tuesday, so we'll have a better sense of what he says there. But I'll also remind you this. Remember, we spoke to Joe Sloan last week, exactly 1 week ago. We spoke to Joe Sloan. Actually, a little more than a week ago. We spoke to Joe Sloan, and he was asked about the offensive line. I asked him the question, said, give me your overall assessment of your offensive line, intentionally leaving it open to see what direction he would go. But remember, the first thing he talked about were feeling like the tackles are pretty much set.
One, I think our tackles have played extreme. Obviously, we have a lot of competition at guard, and I think you're seeing flashes of different guys daily who are playing really well. I think our tackles, the two guys coming into spring, where those two guys had, are going to be first-year starters, and I think definitely when you watch, they have been excellent. Excellent in terms of their growth, right? They got to keep coming. They got to get better every day. But I've been really pleased with what they've done. I think the guards, there's a lot of competition, which has been fun to see. Guys are having to come out every single day and show up. And I think Braylon's played extremely good at center. And I think we have a couple other guys who could, we have some depth at center, which is nice. And then I think, you see some of the young guys who are now starting to come on. I think this is the second half of camp where you'd like to see some of the freshmen or second-year players start to push and take that next step and challenge some of the guys that maybe are in front of them right now. And that'll be the big thing. Our defense throws a lot at us,
So consider where he started. The tackles were going to be first-year starters. He was talking about Davis and Tyree Adams. That was solidified. So Braylon Moore has done a really good job, but we had competition at the guards. He was very clear, competition at the guards. But second half of camp, wanted the freshmen and second-year players to make a push. Maybe that's Carius Curne right now in the second half of camp making a push. I don't want to read too much into it. Again, we have one more day of availability on Tuesday, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that first unit. It could very well just be cross-training. But Brian Kelly said the competition would continue. It's clearly continued on Monday out at the indoor practice facility. Okay, quick break. I'll empty the rest of my notebook, including maybe the most irreplaceable guy on the defense not being there on Monday. We'll get into that as we continue Locked on LSU, your team every day. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine when you're on top of your hydration, you'll notice everything works better. Energy, mood, focus, even your skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why you will love Drip Drop. Drip Drop is doctor-developed, scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Find your go-to flavor at Drip Drop. Be a game changer after a workout on extra busy days. And right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. We've all been there. Decided to go to a game at the last minute with friends or family. Maybe it's game day today. Suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. Well, that's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch. You can invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. See, Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch or to kickoff. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantees that take the worry out of buying. I love the fact that you get the seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where your seat is and what your view will be. And I love the upfront pricing. Turn that function on, but the price you see is the price you pay, so there's no crazy fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, Create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Go ahead and empty the rest of my notebook for Monday's practice. Of course, the Carius Curne joining the first team is the most notable item. Garrett Nussmeier has ditched the sleeve on his left knee. He was wearing leggings today, the purple leggings all the way up, but there was no sleeve on that left knee that he'd been wearing since the inflammation of the flare-up, whatever Brian Kelly talked about with the patella tendonitis. But that was great to see. Garrett Nussmeier's been practicing fully without limitations. He scrimmaged on Saturday. If you heard our previous episode, one of my big takeaways, I was told there were no injuries whatsoever to anyone starter, second team in the rotation. So LSU has remained tremendously healthy through this fall camp. No brace there no sleeve there for Garrett Nussmeier, which was good to see. Colin Hurley was taking the second team quarterback reps during the hurry-up period and during the scout. And the reason might have been Michael Van Buren's hand. So Van Buren had his, you could tell from a distance, had his index finger and his middle finger taped together. So no word or report on what happened there with Michael Van Buren, but clearly that was just something that was a change. Hurley was running with the twos. Van Buren was not, but he did have on his throwing hand his first two fingers taped together. So when we have an opportunity to talk to Brian Kelly, no doubt he'll be asked about that. Maybe the most significant piece is that Harold Perkins was absent. No reason given. I'm sure we'll find out. And again, as I was told, coming out of the scrimmage, there were no injuries. So I'm assuming this was not an injury. Also, Whit Weeks was not participating. He had his helmet on, jersey, shorts, and tennis shoes. And when the defense was running first team defense against a scout offense, he was standing at the goal line behind the defense looking at everything. So getting those mental reps. Again, Brian Kelly told us load management might be that, but it's worth noting. So when the first team defense was out there on Monday, this is how they lined up. Okay. Your ends were Jack Pyburn and Gabe Relaford. Your tackles were Dominic McKinley and Jacobian Guillory. At linebacker, you had West Weeks and Devon Keys. Remember, no Whit. You had Jordan Gilbert working at the star. Your first team cornerbacks were Mansour Delane and PJ Woodland. And then your safeties were Tamarcus Cooley and AJ Halsey. That was your first team defense, again, with no Perkins and no Whit Weeks. Now, I've said here in many places, the two guys on your team that are the most irreplaceable are Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks. And I think you have good depth at linebacker. You just don't have a Whit Weeks after Whit. Devon Keys, I think, is a fantastic young player. Tylen Singleton has come along a lot, but none of them is a potential All-American, potential Butkus Award winner. You take a massive step back when Weeks isn't on the field. Again, we're all assuming Weeks is fine, and they're just doing a load management thing. Okay. The other is Harold Perkins. And you were talking about a dramatic drop-off from Harold Perkins to Jordan Gilbert. But remember also, when Brian Kelly met with reporters on Friday, when he was talking about the safeties, he talked about four guys. He talked about Halsey, Cooley, Deshaun Spears, and Javen Toviano. He did not mention Jordan Gilbert. And what we've seen now is Gilbert running as the backup at star. Very different player from Harold Perkins, but it just goes to show you the different types of skill sets you can have at star, linebacker or safety. So your second team defense, when they lined up, your tackles were Ahmad Bro, Bernard Gooden. Your ends were Patrick Payton and Jamari Butler. Your linebackers were Zach Weeks and Tylen Singleton. The star was CJ Jim Coyley, who looks really good, y'all. He wears 31. He's the freshman who was a safety, converted to linebacker, fills out the uniform. They have Jim Coyley listed at 6'3", 220. Wait till you see him. He's a unit. He's going to be a great player. The cornerbacks were Ashton Stamps and DJ Pickett. And then your safeties were Javen Toviano and Deshaun Spears. That's how the second team defense lined up. And again, there's been so much rotation, but you are getting to a point now where you're getting closer to game week and you're doing scout team reps that you're going to have to start making decisions about who's going to be the first team and who's going to be rotating where. Also of note, whenever they were doing the wide receiver drills, your first team receivers were Anderson, Hilton, and Xavier Thomas. Your 2s, Barian Brown, Nick Anderson, Kyle Parker. Your 3s, you had Destin Hill, Jelani Watkins, and then Aaron Anderson rotated back in with the 3s as well. I think they just needed another body, so we rotated back in there as well. So in any event, that's kind of how it looked. We only got 15 minutes of viewing on Monday, but it was a pretty chock full notebook for just 15 minutes of viewing when we didn't even get to see much of a team period. But we'll be back out there on Tuesday, just so you know how the rest of the week sets up. We do have media availability on Tuesday. We'll talk to Brian Kelly after practice on Tuesday. Then they'll practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. After Tuesday, we're done with our availability. So it'll be the end of the practice reports. But when we do get to talk to Brian Kelly or someone else, we'll certainly let you hear those comments and what our takeaways are as we move throughout the remainder of fall camp. So thank you for being here with us each and every day. Do me a favor, if you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.